Okay, lots of questions about the online petition that was created by Melissa Outwater from Peterborough, Ontario, asking for a non-confidence vote, saying that the Prime Minister does not have the best interests of Canadians at heart. He's not making best decisions. He's increasing homelessness. He's increasing food bank usage. He's increasing poverty, crime, chaos, all of the things we know. So what does this all mean? A lot of the trolls are very angry because this is the fastest growing online petition in parliamentary history. So we're over 200,000. We have until December 24th. That is the end date.
If nobody else is listening, I hope to goodness the Liberal caucus and the NDP caucus are listening. You know, it only takes a couple to change their mind. It only takes a couple to be like, you know what, the people are speaking and we need to listen. It doesn't have to be Justin Trudeau.
Adam Sos here for Rebel News, and you are very likely aware of petition E4701, well, perhaps not by that name, but of the petition calling ultimately for a vote of non-confidence in Justin Trudeau and his government, and for an election to be called 45 days following that vote of no confidence. This is a message that is resonating with Canadians without a doubt, with a petition that has reached 360,000 plus signatures in absolutely record-setting time as far as these types of official House of Commons petitions are concerned. Now, the MP who is the co-signer on this petition, is Michelle Ferreri of Peterborough, Kawartha. She's a Conservative caucus member and a shadow minister on families, children, and social development. In addition to the fact that she has co-signed this petition and made it an official e-petition in the House of Commons, she also provided us with a statement detailing why she has become a co-signer on this bill, and I'll read her statement, which she also shared on social media, and it reads as follows: "A relationship is built on trust. Trust is built on action, not words. Each time somebody, especially a leader, doesn't do what they say or even worse, gaslights his followers, he destroys the trust. Canadians have waited 8 years for action, and what they've been handed is suffering. The facts speak for themselves. Justin Trudeau has delivered record high food bank usage, homelessness, skyrocketing house prices, and opioid and mental health crises, a violent rise in crime, and multiple ethics violations. Misery is a powerful motivator, and clearly this petition is elevating the voices of Canadians who are sick of the Trudeau-imposed misery and want a leader and a government that they can trust." A powerful and unapologetic message from Michelle Ferreri. I spoke with Shadow Minister Ferreri about this important petition, and she's very adamant that despite the fact she is the co-signer, she is not the star of the show. She's not the person who really came up with this. She gave all that credit to one of her constituents, and that constituent is Melissa Outwater. She approached Michelle Ferreri asking if she'd consider co-signing on this. She put the sort of terms and conditions forward, and we were very fortunate, thanks to Michelle Ferreri, who put us in touch, to be able to speak with Melissa Outwater.
The immigration targets, that's exacerbating the housing crisis. What do you say to that?
Actually, it's not the immigration targets. Yes, we're seeing big numbers, but we have to understand there's a breakdown in those numbers. First of all, our immigration targets of close to 500,000 permanent residents every year, that is the steady growth that is going to continue to grow our economy. But there are three areas in which we've seen massive expansion over the past years that we need to make sure we're dealing with in an appropriate and responsible way. The first one is around asylum seekers. We've seen, despite the closing of Roxham Road, we've seen a spike in asylum seekers, and we're working with international partners and we're putting in mechanisms to make sure that we're able to support the people who come here fleeing violence, persecution, and war. The second area is around international students. And one of the things that we've seen over the past years is a massive expansion in international students. That's great. They come here, they benefit to our universities, they contribute to our economy in many ways, but it has to be done in a responsible way. And that's why we're moving forward with a process that's going to ensure that those students who show up are actually going to accredited, responsible institutions of learning that have a plan to ensure housing for the international students who come, instead of just welcoming them in and expecting them to fend for themselves in the communities that surround those institutions.
I think it just stemmed really from other Canadians, asking, I don't know where to go from here. We're so frustrated. Times are so tough. I've never seen our country like this before. Reading news articles about, Canadians leaving the country, like finding property in other countries and leaving. And then we have our refugees who have come here, and supposedly to have this better life. And now we find them homeless, hurting for food. Like, this isn't the life that was promised them by Mr. Trudeau. They were painted this picture of hope, and this refugee country to come to where they were going to be safe and live a comfortable life and prosper. And this is not the case any further in Canada. Our own Canadians, born and raised, aren't prosperous in our country anymore. So it's kind of what sparked it. In my head, there's like this nagging thing that Justin Trudeau spoke to in the Emergencies Act inquiry, where he spoke in regards to the democratic process for Canadians. Like, there is a process to follow to have your voices heard by the government. And it just kept nagging at me that we have this democratic process. Have we ever tried to use it? And what is this democratic process? So I kind of dug in a little bit to it. And the first part of it was, gather in large masses. Well, trucker convoy, and the letter campaigns and the phone calls, the emails. And then there was the petitions. So yeah, I thought, well, it might work. It might. So I kind of battled around with it for a little while. I went out, I talked to some people in my community, and when I was out and about, just having conversations about, like, what do you think about Canada right now, and what's the number one thing that you would change if you had the power to do so. And I kind of got a little bit of information. So the points in the petition that I wrote, I agree with them all, but they're not all my words. Like, they're words of several other Canadians that I've spoken to. So that's kind of how that came about. And then I Googled, how do you put a petition together for the government, and then reached out to Michelle's office, and they sent me the link, and it kind of went from there. And then I asked Michelle Ferreri if she would sponsor it. I find Michelle to be a powerhouse. She's got a very strong voice.
Everything's too pricey. My parents can't afford gas. My parents can't afford food. We can't afford the mortgage. This is the burden we are putting onto our children when we don't put fiscal responsibility first, when we don't care about monetary policy. And that is exactly what this Liberal Prime Minister has done. And it is hurting our most vulnerable.
She has a lot of empathy for her constituents and for the people. So I thought, what better person to present this petition than Michelle Ferreri? She's for the people, and this petition is by the people.
Well, she certainly sang highly your praises. Certainly, lots of people should have pointed to her as the person behind this. She's like, no, I signed off on it. But full credit to Melissa Atwater for actually bringing this forward. But I think when MPs are willing to sort of take a stand like that for their people, that's ultimately what they're supposed to be doing. That's good. I did want to ask you though. I love seeing you turn the sort of Trudeau saying, "Well, use the democratic processes." You're like, okay, we will. But can I ask about the timing? The petition ending right before they go on break, giving Trudeau some time to stew about it. They probably won't get to address this until later in January. Was there some intention behind the timing of this petition?
There was. So ideally, I wanted the petition to be, I wanted it to be the largest petition in Canadian history in the shortest amount of time. So you're given periods of time for the petition: 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, so forth. So I picked the shortest one, which was 30 days. And then I really wanted it to go live on November 24th, so that it ended on Christmas Eve. As lots of Canadians are aware, Justin Trudeau's birthday is Christmas Day. My birthday is Boxing Day. The House of Commons is closed, and the first sitting back in the House is January 29th. And for all of you who want to know, go look up the January 29th and what that means to Canadians.
Yeah, I think people can do 2 and 2 on that one. Now, how's it doing as far as, is it getting close to that largest petition? I don't have before me the history, but
We have surpassed it. So we've surpassed it, I think, almost by 100,000, and we're still going strong. But we've only got 4 days left. Today's the 20th. Yeah, so we have 4 days. It closes at 3:09 on Christmas Eve.
yeah. Well, hopefully lots of folks will see this, and if they have not yet signed, certainly sign it. This clear message to Justin Trudeau that hopefully a million people will be sending, but at least I'm sure we'll get in excess of 400,000 people signing this petition at the very least, probably.
I hope so.
It sends a clear and strong message. The fact that it's beaten all these other records. Now, perhaps this is a question for Michelle Ferreri more than you. I don't know if you have these details, but this isn't necessarily binding. If it reaches a certain threshold, it doesn't mean he's out. It's just sending a message, right?
It is like this is your voice, and it's the most powerful tool that Canadians have is their voice. And I'm not going to tell you that, they're going to vote on this and it's going to get him out of office. What I'm telling you is that yes, it's going to send this strong message into the House of Commons. And if nobody else is listening, I hope to goodness the Liberal caucus and the NDP caucus are listening. You know, it only takes a couple to change their mind. It only takes a couple to be like, you know what, the people are speaking and we need to listen. It doesn't have to be Justin Trudeau. It doesn't have to be Jagmeet that's the ones that listen. All it needs to be is a couple of the NDP and the Liberal people, right? So like, I mean, and if they ever said no and they didn't listen to it or they didn't do anything about it, that sends a very strong message to Canadians on what their government thinks of them. It sends a very strong message if they ignore this petition.
Yeah, certainly does. And I want to thank you for being part of sending that message. This outright, it's just time for you to go message. I think it's what, especially having an MP signing off on it, it's what Canadians need. And I'm sure it'll be a welcome or maybe unwelcome Christmas present for Justin Trudeau and birthday present for Justin Trudeau, who the birthday's fitting because I think he fancies himself something of a savior, but it's not going to be gold, frankincense, and myrrh. It's going to be a petition saying time to sign off, buddy. I want to thank you so much.
Wrapped up in a little bow, so.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for your time joining me for this interview. I really do appreciate it. For everyone at home, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Sos. Well, we certainly encourage you to go and sign that official House of Commons e-petition, which we will provide a link to. I'm also encouraging you to go to our URL, trudeauMustResign.com. We've had a petition going for some time calling for precisely the same thing. At that URL, you'll also be able to find all of our coverage of Justin Trudeau's disastrous and frankly borderline disgusting reign as Prime Minister of this country. Clearly, the sentiment is resounding. Trudeau must resign. If you agree, go to trudeauMustResign.com.